All right, thanks, guys. The Bucks take on the Eagles, 8:20 p.m. Eastern kickoff this Thursday. Tampa's -7, totals 52.5. And if you want to see which one of these free YouTube picks on this video that I'm actually betting on personally, there's only one way to do that, and that's to sign up for my NFL tier package picks on brockpage.com. The 4-1 Bucks have been the pretty much elite passing team in the league through 5 weeks. They're leading the NFL in pass yards per game, top 3 in scoring. Tom Brady's thrown for over 1,750 yards already, along with 15 touchdowns. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown, they all have over 320 receiving yards apiece. They also have 9 total touchdowns between the 3 of them. Meanwhile, defensively, Tampa Bay's in the top 3 in fewest fourth quarter points allowed. They're taking on a Philly squad who's 0-2 at the link this year. This Philly defense allows over 140 rushing yards a game. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ball, Jalen Hurts and this Eagles offense, they're in the bottom 5 in offensive time of possession. Now, Lane Johnson is questionable to play for Philly. Gronk and Levante David, they're out. Now, total-wise, Tampa Bay's 4 under the over thus far in the season. Philly saw 2 out of their last 3 get over the number themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Bucks -7 and the over 52.5. Next ball game, Dolphins versus the Jags, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in London. The Dolphins are -3.5, totals 47. And as bad as the Jags have been this season, the Dolphins haven't really even been competitive since their contest with the Raiders, a game that they lost, by the way. Now, the Fins are on a 4-game losing streak, 1-3 against the spread in those 4 losses. This Dolphin offense is dead last in the league in rushing, bottom 3 in offensive yards per play. They're taking on a Jacksonville squad who's done a decent job running the football themselves. The Jags are gaining just about 130 yards a game on the ground. Meanwhile, defensively, Jacksonville's in the top 10 in fewest fourth quarter points allowed. Now, Andrew Wingard, he's got 28 tackles, a sack, and an interception thus far for the Jags defense. And when it comes to this injury report, McCray, Jack, Robertson, Harris, Coward, Allen, and Campbell, they're questionable. Meanwhile, for the Dolphins on the other side, Parker, Shaheen, and Tua, they're questionable for them. Now, total-wise, 3 out of the Jags' last 4 ball games fell under the total. They also went 70% to the under in their last 10 meetings with Miami. I'm going to lean toward the Jacksonville Jags +3.5 and the under 47. Next ball game, it is going to be Texans versus the Colts, 1 p.m. Eastern start time. The Indianapolis Colts are -10, totals 42.5. Real quick, guys, just another friendly reminder that we went 3-0 in our last 3 premium NFL tier package picks on brockpage.com. We're also 6-2 with a push in our last 9 NFL tier package picks in that very same category. Now, as bad as Houston's been this season, this is a mighty big number for Indy in a divisional game here. Now, we're also looking at an Indianapolis squad who's finding creative ways to lose ball games this year. The Colts are in the bottom 10 in home passing, bottom 10 in offensive yards per play at home. Carson Wentz has thrown just 7 touchdown passes, and he's been sacked a dozen times already through 5 ball games. Meanwhile, defensively, the Colts D is allowing 26 points per contest. Now, they're taking on a Texans team who's done a fairly nice job covering the number this year. 3-2 against the spread through 5 weeks. They're also in the top 10 in fewest passing yards allowed on the road. This is a defense that could give Carson Wentz some problems. Now, Christian Kirksey, he has 41 total tackles, along with an interception and a fumble recovery. And speaking of turnovers, believe it or not, the Texans have 6 interceptions already on the season. Now, injury-wise, Amendola, Burkhead, Tunsil, and Jordan, they are questionable. Meanwhile, for the Colts, Rochelle, Smith, Wilkins, Yassine, and Pay, they're questionable. Also, kicker Rodrigo Blankenship, the guy with the goggles, he's battling a hip injury of some sort. So keep an eye on him. He might not even kick for these guys this week. But anyway, total-wise, Indianapolis is, their last two straight got over the posted number, 3-1 to the over in their last four. Meanwhile, Houston is actually 3-2 to the over on the season themselves. I'm just saying this, guys. I'm not willing to lay double digits with a one-win team here. I have to lean toward Houston plus 10 and the over 42.5. Next ball game, Packers, Bears, 1 p.m. Eastern kickoff. The Packs minus 4.5, numbers 45. Green Bay's won their last four straight, and they've been absolute covering machines in the process. Aaron Rodgers has thrown for nearly 1,250 yards already, along with 10 touchdowns. Devontae Adams is averaging 116 receiving yards a game. Meanwhile, defensively on the other side of the ball, Green Bay's in the top 10 in pass defense. They're taking on a Chicago team who struggles to move the football. They're dead last in offensive yards per play, and they're throwing for only 113 yards a game. Now, when it comes to the injury report, Hicks, James, Holtz, and Ifedi, they're questionable. Meanwhile, on the other side, Kings, Jenkins, Smith, and Myers for the Packers, they are questionable as well. Now, total-wise, Green Bay's last two straight both fell under the number. Meanwhile, Chicago's 4-0 to the under in their last four straight themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Packers minus 4.5 and the under 45. Next ball game, Chiefs football team, 1 o'clock Eastern start time. Kansas City's minus 7, totals 55.5. Now, Kansas City's lost 3 out of their last 4 ball games, 1-4 against the spread overall for the season. And as dynamic as they are offensively, Kansas City's got arguably one of the worst defenses in professional football right now. They're dead last in points allowed, dead last in yards allowed per play. Now, they're taking on a Washington club who's somehow managed to rank in the top 5 in second quarter scoring. Taylor Heineke's thrown for over 1,200 yards and has only been sacked 5 times. Now, when it comes to the injury report here, Roberts, Sims, Brown, and Cosme, they're listed as questionable for Washington. Kelsey, Hill, Jones, and Ward for the Chiefs. And, of course, offensive guard Joe Thuney, he's been downgraded to doubtful for Kansas City as well. So certainly bad news for Kansas City backers there. Now, total-wise, the Chiefs saw their last 2 straight get over the number, 4-1 to the over in their last 5. Meanwhile, Washington saw their last 4 straight all get over the number themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Washington football team plus 7 in the over 55.5. Next matchup, it is going to be Vikings versus the Panthers, 1 p.m. Eastern start. The Vikings are minus 1 on the road, totals 46. Now, look for this line to potentially flip at different points during the week as money comes in on the game. But regardless of where the line's at, could end up as a pick'em by Sunday, by kickoff. But anyway, regardless of where this line's at, just keep in mind that Minnesota lost their only 2 road games on the season. They were unsuccessful in traveling. And as a matter of fact, this Viking defense is in the bottom 5 in the league in yards allowed per play away from home. Of course, speaking of home, Carolina, they're 2-1 at Bank of America Stadium this season, 2-1 against the number in those ball games as well. And as shaky as this Panthers team has looked over the past couple of weeks, these guys actually have a pretty good defense. Hassan Reddick's second in the league with 6.5 sacks. The linebacker also has 21 total tackles and 5 TFLs. The Panthers lead the NFL in pass defense. They're giving up only 161 yards a game through the air. Now, injury-wise, Thompson, Irving, and McCaffrey are questionable. Pierce, Cook, and Smith-Marset for the Vikings. When it comes to the scoring in this one, Minnesota's last 3 straight fell under the line. Carolina's 3-0 to the under in Charlotte. I'm going to lean toward the Carolina Panthers plus 1 in the under 46. Next ball game, it is going to be Bengals versus the Lions, 1 p.m. East. Cincinnati's minus 3, totals 47.5. Now, the Bengals won 2 out of their last 3. Top 10 in the league in rush defense. Logan Wilson has 3 interceptions and 47 total tackles for the Bengals. Cincinnati's in the top 10 in fewest first quarter points allowed. Now, they're taking on a winless Lions team who's struggled on defense. They're in the bottom 3 in yards allowed per play, and they're also allowing nearly 300 yards a game passing at home. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ball, This Lions O-line has let Jared Goff get sacked 14 times. Now, total-wise, Detroit saw their last 3 straight fall under the line. Since he's 4-0 to the under in their last 4, I'm going to fade the Lions here. I don't like the coach crying in the post-game interview. I know a lot of people appreciate that. I think it's passion. I think it's very weak leadership. I'm going to lean towards Cincinnati -3 and the under 47.5. I'm sorry, I'm just not moved by the tears. Sorry. Anyway, next game, Chargers, Ravens, 1 o'clock East. Baltimore's -3, numbers 51.5. Now, Baltimore is a team who's finding creative and unique ways to win ball games, unlike the Colts, who I was explaining a few moments ago. Having said that, though, they haven't been stellar against the number. They failed to cover in 2 out of their last 3, and they give up a whole bunch of passing yards on defense. The Ravens allow over 296 yards passing a game, and they're in the bottom 5 in yards allowed per play. They're taking on a high-powered Charger offense who's led by Justin Herbert. The young quarterback has thrown for nearly 1,600 yards, along with 13 touchdowns. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, they've combined for over 830 receiving yards between the two of them. Williams has also scored 6 times by himself. LA's in the top 3 in the league in passing. Meanwhile, defensively, LA is allowing just 192 passing yards a game on the road. Now, injury info for the Ravens here. Zeitler, Watkins, Elliott, and Stone, they're all questionable. And when it comes to the total on this one, 3 out of Baltimore's last 5 ball games got over the line. 2-0 to the over on their home field. I'm going to lean toward the LA Chargers +3 and the over 51.5. Next contest, it is going to be Rams versus the Giants, 1 o'clock East. LA's -11 on the road, totals 47.5. But as dominant as the Rams have been, I know the Giants stink, guys, but this is a really big number for a 10 a.m. game for a West Coast team. They're essentially playing at 10 a.m. West Coast time. Now, the Rams have failed to cover against the likes of Arizona and Indianapolis this year. That Indy game, that one game was with the Cards was a 17-point loss. So the Rams have also failed to establish a proper run game. They're only gaining 98 yards a game on the ground. Hello? Yeah, come on in. Is it open? Anyway, I don't know. Housekeeping. But anyway, they're taking on a Giants defense who ranks in the top 3 in fewest first quarter points allowed. Logan Ryan has 43 total tackles and a forced fumble. Meanwhile, Tay Crowder has 35 total tackles and a forced fumble. Now, the G-Men have successfully covered the number in 9 out of their last 10 meetings with Los Angeles. And when it comes to the injury report, Shepard, Peppers, Slayton, Breedson, and Tony, they're questionable. Daniel Jones, he's also in concussion protocol, although it always seems like these starting quarterbacks pass protocol with flying colors. Yeah, you can come on in.
Thank you.
Yep. So I don't know if they're greasing them through or not. I don't want to accuse them of that. But whenever these starting quarterbacks, they get banged up or they're in protocol, they always end up playing next week. So anyway, total-wise, New York's 2-0 to the under at home. Meanwhile, the Rams saw their contest this past week with Seattle fall under the number themselves. I'm going to lean toward the New York Giants +11 and the under 47.5. Next matchup, Cards versus the Browns, 4:05 Eastern start time. Cleveland's -3, totals 49.5. Now, the undefeated Cardinals have successfully covered the number in 4 out of their 5 victories. If you need me to get out of the way, just let me know there, sir. All right. Anyway, Kyler Murray's completing 75% of his passes, and he's actually thrown for over 1,500 yards. Now, the Cards are scoring over 31 points a game, and they rank in the top 10 in rush yards per game as well. Meanwhile, defensively, Arizona's in the top 10 in pass defense. They're taking on a Cleveland squad who's in the bottom 10 in pass yards per game. They're also coming fresh off a contest with the Chargers, where they gave up 47 total points. Now, this Browns defense is in the bottom 10 in fourth quarter points allowed. When it comes to the injury report, Clowney, Conklin, Ward, Wills, Newsome, and Fields, they're all questionable for Cleveland. Meanwhile, on the Arizona side, Hudson, Murphy, and Wilson, they're questionable to play themselves. Now, when it comes to the number in this one, Cleveland's 3-2 to the over on the Cleveland's 3-2 to the over on the season, 5-1 to the over in their last 6 meetings with Arizona. I'm going to lean toward the Cardinals +3 and the over 49.5. Next ball game, Cowboys versus the Patriots, 4:25 Eastern Standard Time. The Dallas Cowboys are -4, totals 51. The 4-1 Cowboys have successfully covered the point spread in all 5 of their ball games. Dallas is scoring 34 points a game, and they're in the top 3 in offensive yards per play. Dak Prescott's completing 74% of his passes for nearly 1,400 yards. He's also thrown 13 touchdown passes as well. Meanwhile, defensively, the Cowboys are allowing just 79 yards a game on the ground. They're taking on a Patriots team who's 0-3 already in Foxborough, and they score just 15 points a game there. The Patriots have also done a poor job establishing the run. They're rushing for just 57 yards a game at Gillette Stadium. When it comes to the total in this one, Mason, Mills, Harris, Perkins, and Wade, they're all questionable for New England. Meanwhile, Cooper, Armstrong, and Wilson, they're questionable for the Cowboys. And when it comes to the total in this one, New England's 3-0 to the under at home, 4-1 to the under for the entire season. I'm going to lean toward the Cowboys -4 and the over 51. Next contest, Raiders, Broncos, 4:25 Eastern kickoff. The Broncos are -3, totals 44. And despite their 2-game skid, the Broncos have one of the best defenses in football. Top 3 in the league in points allowed, top 3 in fewest yards allowed per play. As a matter of fact, the Broncos are giving up just 11 points a game at Mile High Stadium. Von Miller has 4.5 sacks and 7 TFLs for Denver. Alexander Johnson also has 28 tackles and a pair of sacks as well. They're taking on a Vegas team who's on a 2-game losing streak, and they also failed to cover the point spread in their last 3 straight. Now, Las Vegas is dead last in the league in rush yards per game on the road. Meanwhile, defensively, Las Vegas is in the bottom 10 in rush yards allowed per game as well. Now, when it comes to the number in this one, Vegas's last 2 straight fell under the posted total. 3-1 to the under in their last 4. Meanwhile, Denver's 4-1 to the under for the entire season themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Denver Broncos -3 and the under 44. Next contest, Seahawks versus the Steelers, 8:20 Eastern start time Sunday night. The Pittsburgh Steelers are -5, totals 42.5. Now, the Steelers got a big win this past week over Denver. 27-19 was the final in that one. And despite struggling offensively, despite struggling significantly on the offensive end, this Pittsburgh defense, they have played pretty well. They're in the top 10. Lights went out on me. Wow. Amazing. Anyway, despite struggling offensively, this Pittsburgh defense has played very well. They're in the top 10 in fewest points allowed, top 10 in rush defense. TJ Watt's got 5 sacks thus far in the season, 4 tackles for loss, and 2 forced fumbles. Micah Fitzpatrick's also leading the club with 38 total tackles. Now, the Steelers are in the top 10 in fewest fourth quarter points allowed. They're taking on a Seattle club who's going to work without Russell Wilson, mangled his finger this past week. And, the discouraging part is Seattle already ranked in the bottom 10 in fourth quarter scoring, even with Russell Wilson in the lineup. But it's really been this Seahawk defense that's been hurting this team. They're in the bottom 3 in rush yards allowed per game. 306 passing yards a game they're giving up. When it comes to the injury report, once again, Wilson's out. Everett and Carson are questionable. Meanwhile, for the Steelers, Juju's out for the year. Bad news there. Sutton, Washington, Bush, and Davis, they're questionable. When it comes to the total in this one, Pittsburgh's 4-1 to the under for the entire year. Seattle's 3-0 to the under on the road. I'm going to lean toward Pittsburgh -5 and the under 42.5. Excuse me. Next matchup, Bills, Titans, 8:15 Eastern kickoff Monday night. Buffalo's -5.5, totals 54. The Red Hot Bills are on a 4-game winning streak, 4-0 against the number in those victories. Buffalo is leading the league in scoring, top 5 in offensive yards per play on the road. Josh Allen's thrown for nearly 1,400 yards already, along with a dozen touchdowns through the air. Meanwhile, defensively, the Bills are leading the league in fewest yards allowed per play. They're also giving up only 10 points a game when traveling. Micah Hyde has 3 interceptions and 21 total tackles from the secondary. They're taking on a Titans team who's in the bottom 3 in offensive yards per play at home. Meanwhile, defensively, Tennessee's allowing 26 points a game and 6.3 yards per play. Saffold, Jones, Dupree, Evans, Fulton, and Rice, they're questionable for the Titans. When it comes to the total in this one, 3 out of Tennessee's last 4 ball games got over the number. Meanwhile, 2 out of Buffalo's last 3 got over the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Buffalo minus 5.5 and the over 54. With that, guys, now it's time for our quick pick recap, powered to you by my website at brockpage.com, where we are 3-0 in our last 3 NFL tier package picks on that site. I like Tampa Bay minus 7 over 52.5, Jacksonville plus 3.5 under 47, Houston plus 10 over 42 and a hook, Green Bay minus 4.5 under 45, Washington plus 7 over 55.5, Carolina plus 1 under 46, Cincinnati minus 3 under 47.5, LA Chargers plus 3 over 51 and a hook, New York Giants plus 11 under 47.5, Arizona plus 3 over 49 and Arizona plus 3 over 49 and a hook, Dallas minus 4 over 51, Denver minus 3 under 44, Pittsburgh minus 5 under 42.5. Before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 3-0 in our last 3 NFL tier package picks on brockpage.com, 6-2 with a push in our last 9 in that very same category. I'm going to lean toward the Buffalo Bills minus 5.5 and the over 54. And with that, guys, now it's time for our shout out of the day. And that's going to go to Sanford Davis, who said yesterday, I always listen to your podcast, good information. I still do my homework also. And I'll tell you what, Sanford Davis, that's a great comment. I love that comment because you should do your homework yourself. You know, I love giving out picks. I love handicapping games, but never have I once guaranteed a win or a victory. I'm not going to do that. I strongly advocate that you do your homework. I'm just kind of helping your arsenal a little bit, you know, with opinions, but do your homework, do your research. It's very rewarding when you win games, you know, doing your own research and doing your homework. So, Sanford, great comment. I love that comment, man. You know, if you're listening to information from me and you're doing your own homework, that's a good combo, man. That's a good team. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me. Actually, real quick, I wanted to mention it in the Raider game, then I decided not to, but now I am. I normally don't get involved in news at all. Certainly, over the past year or so during 2020, there was a lot of racial stuff. I didn't touch it. But what happened to John Gruden, I mean, those emails and the things he said, absolutely disgusting. He's got to go. The Raiders were quick, concise. They made the right call. Gruden's got to go. What he did was absolutely disgusting. He admitted it. He did not deny it. And it's disgusting. So that's all I'm going to say about it. Honestly, I do an NFL podcast, so I got to address it. I can't just ignore it. The right call was made. Gruden was foul. He was foul, and he was out of line. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my website at brockpage.com. Now, if you guys end up getting a membership here today, just keep in mind you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a membership here today, you're going to get access to that content all the way through the end of October. I always tell folks the earlier in the month that you sign up, the better. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Wednesday to you. Happy hump day to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at brockpage.com.